Hey all, and welcome to another video of me trying to make the fictional world a bit more real. The other day I was replaying some Pokemon SoulSilver and finally got to Kanto, so I did what I usually do. Make up a narrative for my little dude, because while it's great that you get to explore two regions, the story there is fairly bare Cubones. The narrative I'd made up for myself this time was that I needed a vacation after dealing with the headache that is Claire. That's it. The Elite Four was chill compared to trying to get a badge from her. And so on my vacation, I'd gone to Kanto to relax. But that got me thinking, how safe would Kanto be for tourists? Well, I'd done a similar video just like this about the Mushroom Kingdom, so I thought I'd do the same thing here. I won't go into as much detail about the process here, so if you want to get a better rundown of things, you should go check out the first one. But basically, depending on where you live, your country's government may have travel advisories to inform you about dangerous rampaging sea dragons, and tapirs or anteaters that steal your dreams. All useful information to be sure. But for the purpose of this video, we'll go by the United States Travel Advisories, which evaluates a place on 4 levels based on different categories. Those levels are normal precautions, increased caution, reconsider travel, and do not travel. Since I don't work for the Department of State, I'm not entirely sure how these are ranked and what justifies a 1 versus a 2, but they're all based somewhat off of these 8-ish categories. I'm looking at you, other. So let's take a look at them and see how the Kanto region measures up. The first one is crime, and it's a 2-parter. The first part says, widespread violent or organized crime is present. This is pretty low-hanging fruit to start out. The fairly organized crime syndicate Team Rocket is present throughout the main story, but in the postgame, they're basically non-existent, just like the player character's dad. Coincidence? Probably. With Giovanni officially dismantling Team Rocket, we no longer see them anymore. So we have to choose if we're going to look at a pre or post-red Kanto region. And yes, I know that they come back eventually in Silver, Gold, and Crystal, but they don't really come back in the Kanto region, they more come back in the Johto region. I'm going to say this is a post-red review, mainly because I want to give Kanto the best shot at getting that sweet, sweet tourist revenue. And this way it would fail to meet the mark of violent or organized crime. The second part of this category, however, says local law enforcement may have limited ability to respond to serious crimes. Now, throughout the whole main story, we only see 1 police officer working, and they're not doing a great job if I'm being honest. Aside from that 1 cop, there's a guy who says he's a secret agent looking into Team Rocket, but International Police is not Kanto Police. So this 1 cop is it. Sure, there are hopefully more hanging out somewhere, but if so, where the heck are they? Are they all just manning the booths hoping to get tea from unsuspecting travelers? That's messed up. I mean, the biggest company in the region got taken over, and they didn't even bother to show up to the aftermath. Not to mention their absence during any of the other attacks in the region. And I know that I said we were looking at Kanto after all of this happened, but the past doesn't inspire any confidence in the future. Plato said that, I think. If Red hadn't been there, Kanto would be in a lot worse state. So this one gets a mark for how little of a police force it has. Next up, we have terrorism. Team Rocket's really the only group that could possibly tip the scales on this one, but their motives aren't ever really political. Giovanni seems mainly interested in doing what he can to get rare, strong Pokemon, by any means necessary. Definitely a concern, but not necessarily terrorism. Civil unrest is defined as
political, economic, religious, and/or ethnic instability exists and may cause violence, major disruptions, and/or safety risks.
The Kanto region never shows any signs of political instability, mainly because it doesn't really show any signs of a political system. The closest it gets is with the Elite Four, who I'm guessing are an oligarchy, but they don't seem too keen on any form of control. Its economy is doing well, I guess. We don't know Kanto's GDP, but I have yet to talk to an NPC who asked for some spare change.
Spare change? Spare change, ma'am?
Plus, if we look at the price of goods from Gen 1 to 3 years later in Gen 2, we can see that they stay about the same, meaning it's managed to avoid inflation at least. Boy, doesn't that sound nice. And the last item on that list is religion, which doesn't really exist in the Kanto region. Sorry, Arceus. For all of these reasons, civil unrest isn't really a problem here, so far, we're 1 for 3. Honestly, not too bad. Next up is health though, and I don't have a lot of confidence in this. Thankfully, there aren't any global diseases or outbreaks. Yay, escapism. And there's even some healthcare infrastructure built up for Pokemon. There are no hospitals, clinics, or even pharmacies for people. I imagine something like a burn heal might work for us, but that's it. No medical staff on hand, so that's a strike against it. As far as natural disasters go, we actually know that Kanto is, in for some trouble. You see, when we revisit the region in our Johto adventures, something isn't quite right with Cinnabar Island. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Oh, that's right. Kanto's shown it has the potential for volcanic eruption, even when there wasn't a noticeable volcano there before. But just having the potential for an eruption does not a problem make. So no marks against it here. Time-limited events and hostage-taking are both going to be a no. We never see any kidnappings in the Kanto region. Mount Mr. Fuji doesn't count here, even if we were looking at a pre-read timeline. Although it's framed as a kidnapping, he was there intentionally. And there aren't any crazy elections or sporting events going on, so we're good on these two. As for the last one, we have Other, the catch-all for trouble. And let's just get this out of the way, Pokemon cannot show up in this section. Yes, giant angry sea snakes with huge mouths are not great for your safety, but they would do just as much for tourism as they would do against it, and you know that's true. So is there anything else about the Kanto region that makes it unsafe for tourists? The closest case I can make for it is poor animal control, because they seem to have a reoccurring problem with Snorlax blocking the path. But I don't know if that should constitute a problem, since its dex entries say it's so docile children can climb up on its belly without it so much as batting an eye. So like, don't worry about the flute, just climb over it. And if you can't climb, just go around it. Aside from that, we have Mewtwo, the genetically modified Pokemon that's here to just mess you up. But I don't think we can mark it because Pokemon as a whole, we already agreed, shouldn't be on this list. However, the fact that evil labs can exist to even create Pokemon like Mewtwo, that's concerning. So for that, I'm gonna give it a half point. But with that out of the way, let's see where Kanto stands. It passes the check for terrorism, civil unrest, natural disasters, time-limited events, hostage-taking, and kind of other. While it only has a mark against it for crime and health, and kind of other, for a final score of 2.5 out of 8. Honestly, really good, all things considered. So with a score like that, which of the 4 levels would it fit into? This part here is subjective, but I'd go ahead and say this one can sit safely in the second tier. This region is fairly tame, especially compared to some that we'll look at in the future, so I don't feel like it deserves anything higher than that. But hey, now you know when you start planning your trip to the Kanto region. Oh, wrong Kanto region. There we go. Hey, thanks for watching that video. Hopefully you liked it. If you can think of something else that should have gone in the other category that I couldn't, by all means, please let me know in the comentarios down below. And as always, I hope to catch you in the next one.